Welcome to our video today. We have the pleasure of having Taylor Hendricks with Intercap Lending here. We're going to dive deep into the world of mortgages, what's going on right now with COVID. There's been a lot of changes in the lending world. And anyway, this video we're going to dive in deep to all of them. And we're going to talk about some action items at the end, what I would do if I were anyone who currently owns a home or who's looking to purchase, and just kind of what I'd do from there. A little recap from our last conversation.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
No, I was just barely thinking. How long ago was that?
I believe we were in April.
Oh, okay.
In April, looking back, for those who are familiar with what was going on, if you had the internet, it was it was when COVID was kind of at its peak of like awareness, and things were just kind of crazy, and I was very unsure of what was going on, if it was going to be the end of the world or not. And anyway, that's when our
Gotcha.
last conversation was. And just a little bit to pat ourselves on the back, our big push toward the end of that video was talking about rates are incredibly low right now. Great time to buy. The competition is not there, so it was very likely that you could get some of your closing costs paid for.
Yep.
It was going to be a less competitive market than what we had been seeing the last couple of years. Prices weren't necessarily dropping, but as a buyer, you had a little bit more negotiating space. So that was kind of what was going on. And then I remember our action item at the end of that video was, if you're considering buying, go out and buy now.
Do it now. Yep.
Honestly, I'd say appreciation that from what we've seen from then until now, we're looking at probably 5 or 6%.
At least.
Which, on a $400,000 house, which we'll use that number, it's creeping toward being our median purchase price here in Utah County.
Yep.
So a $400,000 house, that 5% was $20,000. So if someone would have listened to us back then, again, patting on our back. But for real though, if someone would have listened to that, bought a house then, probably could have had their closing costs paid for, so less out-of-pocket costs, still had incredibly good rates.
Yep.
And then on top of that, they have now $20,000 in equity that they just, cheers, $20,000 in your pocket. Not a bad deal.
No, and if anybody did listen to us, we take cash, Venmo, check, whatever works.
PayPal, I'll download
happy.
the Cash app or whatever.
So, yeah.
But that's exactly the way it was. So providing a little bit of background on that, I know it was kind of a long introduction, but I felt like it was worthwhile. And I mean, for those folks who just kind of casually look at some of our videos, it's not to say, hey, we know everything, but we do pull a lot of the data, and we work hard to make sure that we're giving our clients and you guys the best information out there. So without further ado, I give you Taylor Hendricks.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Great, Taylor. So let's talk about kind of what's been going on. I'm not saying this is after COVID, because COVID's still around. It's still a
Definitely
thing.
is. Yeah.
But what's kind of the state of the union on what's been going on, where we were at before COVID-19, what interest rates were looking like then,
Yep.
where we were at when it was like top scare moment,
Yep.
and then where we're looking right now.
Yeah, so rates have been all over the place. They've, starting in March, we can even start pre that video. Starting in March, or even February, you're probably, on average in the low 4s, somewhere around there. Low 4s, high 3s was pretty average. And then right after that, when COVID hit, you can see just a huge dip. We were typically between 2.6 and 2.7 on a rate on a 30-year. On a 15 years, even lower, probably 2.3 to 2.5.
And I'm going to pause you. What does that mean for your layperson with 3s and 4s?
Oh, yes, sorry.
And 5s
yes,
and 10s.
Yes, of course. Sorry, yeah, I get caught in my lender talk.
Yeah.
But it's just so, for example, like back in February, if you were high 3s, it's high 3% range. So maybe 3.7, 3.8 on an interest rate. And then back when COVID hit, we were closer to that 2.6, so 2.6%, 2.7%. And then just a little bit lower if you did a 15-year loan. On your 30-year loans, though, that's where you're 2.6 to 2.7. We did see, to be honest, it's been pretty steady. At the beginning of August was the lowest we've ever done. We were locking people in it was 2.5% on a 30-year. We were getting people all the way down to 1.99 on a 15.
Yeah, wow.
Crazy. We've seen in the last month, we've seen that it's increased now. We're kind of on an upward trend. So as opposed to 2.5 on a 30-year, we're closer. I've been locking most people in the last 2 weeks between 2.8 and 2.9, most of them at 2.8.
Wow.
So
I know someone who locked in at a 2.5.
I do.
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, but okay, very cool. So just to kind of recap,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, we were looking in the high 3s, low 4s.
Yep.
And we're talking 2020 now. That's kind of the timeline we're looking at. Once the scare started coming in, we saw rates drop significantly.
Huge dip.
And then I know it was like at the peak, and we were looking in April, May, it was like rates were starting to hike back up again a bit.
Yep.
And then kind of leveled off and dipped a little bit in August, and now it's kind of seeming like an upward trend.
Yeah, that's about right. We had April, May, right around there, we had about 2 weeks where we just told everybody don't lock in because I pulled pricing on a couple of them, and with everybody going crazy in the market, you were all the way to 4.5 in the morning, and then it was 3.2 in the afternoon. We just had the biggest jumps in history in one day. So we just told everybody, hold off, let's wait till everything calms down, and then that's where we saw kind of a little bit of a level out.
Yeah, I know the volatility was crazy then.
That it was.
So for the folks who did decide to take action, I want to talk about what interest rates are and what buying power looks like, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what numbers you've pulled up. I know you came prepared with a couple. Do you want to take a minute and share kind of what that looks like and how buying power influences where we're at and what we can actually purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is probably where we can throw that graph up. But I printed out the graphic that we have that shows the loan amount, which was probably a little low, but I put it at 300,000. Just that way you're in your townhome range as well, somewhere around there in the 300s. And then I put the rate, which is super common right now, at about 2.875. That way we can just see exactly what we're looking at. It gave a principal and interest on this of 1,244. And then you've got, you can see right there, 2.875, 300,000. As this graph goes down, you can start to see the higher interest rates. And with that higher interest rate, it's starting to show what that same 1,244 monthly payment is going to give you on a price. So for example, at 3% with 1,244 on a monthly payment, it drops you so you can no longer do 300,000. You're only purchasing 295. It's the same payment. It's the same everything. You're just getting less of the house. And then you can take that even farther all the way down. At the very bottom, you can see this is what is the crazy thing, because 4.25 was not uncommon, almost this year. But 4.25 is the same 1,244 monthly principal and interest, but you're only able to purchase 253,000. So you're talking $47 or almost $47,000 different in buying power at that 300 price point.
Okay, so translation. Essentially, what you're telling me is, so say, what's the monthly payment that we're looking on that?
1,244.
1,244. Okay.
Yeah.
So say I want to keep my payment around 1,250. If I said, hey, that's where I'm at, then pre-COVID that would mean, okay, cool. Well, you have about 250,000 in buying power.
Yep. Exactly.
Go ahead and you're qualified for up to that.
Yep.
And today, with the rates the way they are now, it's like same monthly payment. Go ahead and you can go up to 300,000.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it. It's your buying power that you have is so much more, and especially in the Utah County area, I'm sure as you've seen, 250,000 as the maximum purchase price on a house versus 300,000. It's a totally different ballgame on what you can buy, and that's all just in the rate alone, not anything else.
Yeah, that's insane. I know of somebody who they were teetering at like 420 was where their cap was. Mm-hmm. But with the rates the way they were there, they were able to buy something at 450 and qualify for that no problem.
Yep.
So you're with actually an even lower monthly payment than what it was going to be at 420 back in February, March.
Exactly. Yep.
which is insane. And I really want to emphasize that if there's anything I can emphasize throughout this video or throughout what you guys are watching, is that's a big deal. Sometimes folks are like, well, listen, Terry, I don't want to buy anything right now because I think prices are high. First off, you can watch a bunch of my other videos on where I think prices are going. I don't think they're going down. There's no indication that I see of prices going down. For further reference, I can put a link to one of my foreclosure videos and a couple of my other videos just analyzing the market and where things are going. So, but long story short, prices aren't going down. But even more important than that is, although prices are going up, we talked 5-6% is what that looked like. So let's use those same $300,000 and $250,000.
Yep.
So a $250,000 house, if you would have listened to the video we had back in April, you could have gotten that and the low rate, and that'd have been awesome. But now that same $250,000 house has gone up in price about, let's say, 5% for easier numbers. 5, that's 12.5. Yeah. So now it's worth $262,500 is what the house is now worth. But your buying power is at $300,000.
Yep.
So it would have been better to buy right now than it would be to buy back in January, just because the rates are where they're at now.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Huh.
That to me, it's mind blowing. I really hope that's coming across the camera. I know sometimes that's a hard thing to emit out there, but that's such a big deal. You're probably never going to have lower rates than this ever, I'd imagine.
I don't think so, and I think that's the main message: is buy as soon as you can, buy now, because with those rates, if rates go up tomorrow and your buying power goes from 400 to 350, there's no getting that back. Yeah. You know what I mean? That dream house you had at 400 is not going to be there, and it's the same income, same everything, same qualifying, you name it. It's just that one little variable that makes the big difference.
Wow.
So.
And let's talk about refinancing. I think we've beat up everyone who's like been on the fence on whether or not they should purchase now, and hopefully that emphasis has come across.
Yeah.
But let's talk about refinancing. Say someone even just a year ago bought a house for 4.0 interest rate or something like that.
Yep.
Let's talk about what would happen if they refinanced right now.
Yeah. So refinancing is a great way to go about it to lower your monthly payment. You can refinance even if you're in $100,000 or less. If you've paid your mortgage for 15 years, if you paid it for 6 months, there's not a lot of rigidity on that. You can pretty much refinance whenever. The main goal on a refinance is to basically take your interest rate, let's say you're at 4.5%, and drop it down to the current market, which would be in the mid to high 2s, and to 2%, maybe 2.5%, 2.6%, etc., right around there. And that's the main goal, because just like we were talking about, where that you have more buying power, it also works where that same amount that you owe that we can refinance with a lower interest rate will give you just a lower payment. A lot of people ask, for example, can we just lower the interest rate and keep, I've already paid a year, can we just do 29 years and lower the rate? We do have to start 30 years over, so it does start that, or 15 years, or however long of a term you'd like to do. But we can do that and lower the monthly payment. Typically, it makes sense to do so.
Yeah. So please share this video with anyone who you know who owns a home, because it might save them a few $100s. I know of a client who she had a Utah housing loan. So for those who don't know Utah housing, a very, very, very quick, rough recap. You have to pay mortgage insurance indefinitely. It doesn't matter how much equity you have in the home, you have to pay mortgage insurance. And you have a second mortgage that you're paying on the home. And then you have your regular mortgage. And historically, you have a little higher interest rates. Does that sound relatively accurate?
Perfect, yeah.
On that Utah housing loan, she had this loan for like 10 years. So like that, for me, that hurts, because I'm like, I know how much she probably could have refinanced in about a year or two.
Yep. And
gotten rid of her second mortgage, and probably gotten rid of her private mortgage insurance.
Absolutely.
Which what that means is on a $200,000 or so loan, probably would have been saving a couple $100 a month.
At least. Yeah.
So to me, that's a huge deal. So anyone who has had a loan, even if it is exactly what you're talking about, they've had their loan and they're like, hey, I've already been paying 10 years into it. What should I do? If you want to keep the same payment, maybe you keep the same payment and you do a 15-year.
Yep.
And the nice thing about 15 years, you can get a little bit better interest rate, or even a 20-year. I know those are kind of
it's close to a 30, but
not ideal, but also you can get it done relatively quickly.
Yep.
So anyway, there's definitely some good options for you, regardless of where you're at, how long you've been making your monthly payments. I'd say, in my opinion, and I want to hear yours. In my opinion, I'd say anyone who's got maybe above a 3.7 or so interest rate, I'd say now is a good time to refinance. I don't know if you have a different number, if you have a number.
I've told most people that we've been talking to, even 3.2 or 3.3. So anywhere in those percentages or below, we've been able to refinance, and it's saved them at least $100 a month.
Wow.
So it's a great time. And I have had, if you want me, I can go into even like closing costs, because I have people ask me that all the time.
Yes, and I'm gonna cut you off and ask
Okay.
a question real quick, and then let's go into that.
Cool.
I'm sure some folks are thinking, okay, like hold up, why the heck is a lender that they've already having payments come into them? Why is this that I'm just all of a sudden saving money? Like how does that work, and what's in it for the lenders?
Yeah, it's, what's in it for us? To be honest, I'll be honest, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you. It's, because, I mean, you do have the closing costs that go into it, but overall, I mean, that's a phenomenal question. I've been on here a couple times, and that one I cannot answer. I wish I could tell you.
No worries. Here's how
Do you have insight?
Here's how I think I'd answer it.
Let's hear it.
So a lot of these loans that are taking place are government loans.
Yep.
Right? The big difference is, all right, so I'm going to create a quick scenario, and I want to buzz through this quickly because it's important for you guys to know like what's in it for who, just so you don't think like why the heck they're doing it and then you hesitate to take some action. But it's like, all right, Taylor, I'm gonna give you this loan for $100, and I'm gonna charge you 10% time over time.
Yep.
And then we've got Daniel over here who says, hey, I can give you that same loan for 2%. So every year you're paying me $2 instead of $10. And then you say, yeah, that's cool, but I still have to pay off Terry. And we say, great. Well, I'll give you the $100 that you need to pay off Terry, and then you can pay him off, and then now you're set with just the $2 thing. Right? The difference is when I got the loan, I was actually borrowing it from Kevin, Kevin is, say, the government, and Kevin was giving that loan out to me at 7%, so I was making $3 on that, and then now he's giving the loan out to Daniel for 1%. So Daniel's still making 1% after giving it to you, and yeah, so it still works out well for him at that point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That it does.
I know it's kind of a weird story. I wish I had some graphics or something to explain it. But long story short is just the lenders are getting a better deal from the government than they were whenever you got your loan. So now they can pass that good deal on to you. And that's what's in it for them is they have that and they can still make money passing that on to you.
There we go.
Cool.
Ton, you learn something every day.
Well, okay. Well, now let's go into what everything means and how everything's going to be playing out.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and if you want to touch on something before this, we can touch on something before this. But for refinancing, December 6th.
It's December. Actually, I looked up just to make sure it's December 1st.
December 1st.
That's the day.
Okay.
Yep.
So December 1st, anyone who has to refinance has to pay a half point. You want to go into what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it actually was supposed to start in September, but bottom line is the government came in and basically said, hey, look, we're going to start taxing extra on refinances. I wish I could tell you exactly why, but that was just something that came out. They said, look, guess what, everybody? There's a tax coming in on all refinances. And long story short, that basically translated into a slightly higher rate. It was, for example, the day before, in fact, I remember I was talking to somebody and I called them. I said, we need to get your loan locked right now. We need to do this because tomorrow the rates are going up. And so I locked him in. He was at 2.625. His loan funded today and he's done. But we locked him in at that 2.625 and then the tax went into effect the next day. And rates went from 2.625 up to 2.875. So we saved in some money there. But they dropped the tax and said, you know what, that wasn't fair. We're not going to do it as fast as we did. We're actually just going to start the tax December 1st. So really just what it means is that rates on refinances are going to go up because there are extra taxes in addition. And so to compensate for that, the rates are a little bit higher to make up for that. So that's why we're trying to push for everybody we can to refinance. Preferably, we're trying to get everybody started, locked and everything by November 1st. That way we have all of our time to make sure that that tax does not go into effect.
That's great.
So
what that means is if you have a loan on your house, it's definitely, in my opinion, worth making a phone call, whether it's to Taylor, whether it's to another lender, or whoever.
Hopefully it's me.
but please make a phone call to whoever your preferred lender is. If you don't have anyone, I'm sure Taylor's happy to take your call.
I know a guy. So.
But really, and this video is not. I don't get anything out of you doing any of this, but what you get out of it is worth it to me. Is for you to save a couple $100 just for watching this video. Maybe you're saving $200 a year. That's $2,400. $200 a month.
That's
$2,400 a year.
Yeah.
And then you're set, And then you have probably the best interest rate that you can ever have, which I think sets you up for what I think one of the best investment plans for most people is then you just leave that house in a year or two, buy another house, and when you leave that house, you turn it into a rental, and then you keep going and you house hack going that way. So I guess inadvertently, that is for me because we help folks throughout that process. But regardless of whether or not you end up going that route, I do think that now's the time to refinance. You save your half point, which is a half percentage of whatever that loan amount is. So a $300,000 loan amount, that's $1,500. I mean, you're saving yourself $1,500 by doing it now as opposed to then. And all I know is the interest rates right now are insane, and it's definitely worth capitalizing on that to move forward and get the ball rolling on that. So I hope this has helped. More than anything, I wanted to emphasize why now is a really good time to do something there, and hopefully I have at least one or two people who take action on that, and then you can be happy about it. And I feel like I'm providing value out there. But Taylor, do you have anything else that you want to share before we finish out?
No, I think exactly what you said is right. I mean, we know December 1st, rates are going to be going up, and that's not an if, that is a given. So it's just like you said, anybody that has the ability or even just has a simple question, if you have a rate above 3.5%, anything like that, and you have a question, just give me a call. I'm happy to help, and we can run through scenarios. And even if it doesn't work, even if it's not the time, that's okay. I can let you know. But I think it's definitely worth making one phone call just because the amount of savings per month is astronomical for that one phone call. That's a pretty good return.
Yeah, That's awesome. And then a quick how that affects housing. I'm on the real estate side, and that's kind of what I focus on. Is right now we are in an insane seller's market and kind of buyer's market. Buyer's market in the sense of everything that we talked about prior to this. To me, mentioned this in the video. The rates are just incredibly good, and because they're so good, it's also incredibly competitive, and sellers are getting top dollar for their homes. So now is a great time to sell. Now is a great time to buy. But with all that taking place, and just with the natural slowdown that we typically see during the colder seasons here in Utah, I really do think that now, if you're looking to make a real estate transaction, now is a really, really good time, both on the buy and the sell and the invest side. The only place that's not fun to be right now is renting. Sorry for my beloved renters out there, but as soon as you can get into the game, it's going to be a better position, whether that's having a co-signer work with you and you can get something done that way. I mean, pinching pennies, whatever you need to do. I really do fully believe now is a great time to transact. I mean, we've got, I don't know if I should be saying it, but we just closed on a house, put another house under contract. It's a new build, Taylor. Don't worry. Not closing.
You're scaring me.
Not closing for another year, but we're locking in the price now, which I think is, with the upward trends of prices, I think it's going to be a good call. Under contract on a triplex, and we're working on a fourplex as well. Like, I'm not just out there saying this so we transact more. I fully believe everything that I'm saying, and I hope that some of that comes across to you guys and ends up helping you and whatever situation you're in. But anyway, thanks so much, Taylor, for coming in and giving us your expert advice and giving us a good analysis there.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hope it was a good time for you, and hope it was beneficial for all you guys watching out there. Thanks again, and hope this video finds you well.